$1 on the screen, three very different promises underneath. In June, the stablecoin market slid to around $312 billion, its largest monthly drop since Terra USD. Days later, Europe's rules locked the world's biggest exchange out of an entire continent, and the largest stablecoin on Earth is sitting its first real audit in 12 years. I'm Rachel from ChainSense. In the next 9 minutes, who actually backs your digital dollar, how stablecoins die, and which coin fits your scenario before your region decides for you. Because stablecoin is one word for three promises: fiat-backed, crypto-collateralized, and synthetic. Start with the map, because this year the map moved. On the 1st of July, Europe's MiCA framework stopped being a transition and became a wall. No license, no service, no pending status, no extensions. Binance withdrew its Greek application a week before the deadline, and from the 1st of July it halted new orders, deposits, and signups for EU residents. Withdrawals stay open, and it plans to reapply. A suspension, not an exit. But notice what MiCA does not do. It does not touch what you own. Holding USDT in Europe stays legal. You simply cannot buy it on a compliant EEA exchange. If you are in the EU, the practical move is a licensed venue. Kraken holds a MiCA license through the Central Bank of Ireland, and the ESMA register lists the rest. America went the other way. The Genius Act, signed last July, takes effect no later than the 18th of January 2027. The UK is drafting its own regime. The full tour is Tuesday's episode. Every peg has a failure mode. The design tells you which. May 2022, Terra USD, an algorithmic coin backed not by dollars, but by a mint and burn dance with its sister token Luna. When confidence cracked, the mechanism holding the peg became the mechanism destroying it. Roughly $40 billion, gone in days. The fraud cases came later, on top of the design failure, not instead of it. March 2023, the opposite story. Circle held $3.3 billion of USDC reserves at Silicon Valley Bank. The bank failed on a Friday. USDC printed near 87 cents over the weekend and recovered fully within days once deposits were guaranteed. A custody scare, not an insolvency. And then there is USDE, not a stablecoin in that sense at all, but a synthetic dollar riding a derivatives strategy where the yield is the risk. Thursday's episode runs all three autopsies. Now the seductive part. Yield on a stablecoin is a salary, paid for a job your dollars are doing somewhere. There are three engines. Engine 1, reserve interest. The issuer earns on treasury bills, and under America's Genius Act, a regulated issuer cannot pass that on to you as yield. So when a platform pays you, the money is coming from somewhere else. Engine 2, borrowing demand. Traders pay to borrow your stablecoins, and you quietly take on their credit risk and the platforms. Engine 3, funding rates. The derivatives engine behind synthetic dollars. Generous in one market mood, gone or negative in another. The engine defines the risk, always, and access differs by region. The US, the EU, and the UK see different products on different platforms. Any number that looks like a promise, check the live rate, then ask which engine pays it and who stands between you and the exit. Here's the distinction that separates marketing from proof. An attestation is a snapshot. An accountant confirms that on one chosen date, the numbers presented added up. An audit is the film. Assets, liabilities, and the controls behind them, tested over a period, ending in a signed opinion. Tether, issuer of USDT, has published monthly attestations from BDO Italia for years, and its first full audit by KPMG began in March 2026. It is still running. No opinion has been issued. So two popular lines are both wrong. The line that Tether has never been checked. False. Checked monthly, snapshot style. The line that Tether passed an audit. Equally false. The audit is not finished. What would a clean opinion actually prove? And what would it still leave open? That is Monday's episode, including how to read a reserve report yourself in 10 minutes. Step back, and the most interesting stablecoin news is not from crypto at all. It is from the plumbing. In Spain, Iberpay, the company behind the national interbank payment system, is piloting tokenized digital money with the banks themselves. Those banks are not hypothetical. Santander, BBVA, CaixaBank, and Sabadell are all in the smart money pilot, with the tokens backed by funds sitting in central bank accounts. The incumbent rebuilding its own floor, not a challenger storming it. And Tether's American play, USAT, launched this January through Anchorage Digital, a regulated bank as the issuer, the familiar brand on top. That is the template forming. Currency on chain, issued by the regulated. One scope note, so we stay honest. This is money on chain. Tokenized funds and treasuries are assets on chain, a different animal, and we covered them in the RWA series. Wednesday's episode reads the pilots properly and asks what happens to today's giants when your bank mints the next dollar. Which brings us to the question this whole series ends on: USDT or USDC? The wrong question is which is safer, full stop. The right question is safer for what? USDT is the liquidity king. Well over half of the entire market, the deepest pairs, the default dollar across emerging markets. Its proof today is attestations plus an audit in progress. USDC is the compliance play, a U.S. issuer aligned with the incoming rulebook, and the coin that took an 87-cent punch and recovered in days. In Europe, part of the choice is made for you. Compliant EEA exchanges cannot offer USDT, and some have delisted it for EU users outright. Different designs, different proofs, different doors, depending on where you stand. Friday week, the comparison episode walks the full matrix: design, reserves, access, history, and ends with a verdict that matches coin to scenario instead of crowning a winner. Until then, my working matrix. Trading float on a major exchange, liquidity wins. That is USDT territory, where your region allows it. Parking savings inside a regulated setup, the compliance profile wins. USDC territory. Living in the EU MiCA has made half the decision already. Choose the licensed venue first and the coin second. Chasing yield. Stop and replay the three engines. Name the engine before you accept the salary. Anything synthetic, treat it as a trading strategy, not a savings account, whatever the landing page says. None of this is financial advice. It is a checklist, and underneath it sits the one habit I would keep above all. Read the proof, not the promise. Reserve reports are public documents. 10 quiet minutes with one will teach you more than 100 headlines. The step-by-step on buying, converting, and storing, that is in the written guide linked below. So that is the map. 3 promises, 1 price tag, and a proof problem running through all of it. Over the next 2 weeks, this channel walks every corridor. The regulation shock, the DPEG autopsies, where yield hides its risk, what Tether's audit can and cannot prove, and the money your bank is quietly building. The 5 satellite videos go deeper, and the comparison video settles USDT versus USDC, links in description. Stable isn't a property, it's a promise, and promises need proof. Subscribe to ChainSense. I'm Rachel. See you in the next one.